about a night and day difference. Stamos and Causey gave the Texas A&M Aggies about all they could handle in Thursday's elimination game. And then a little help from the Vol offense was a good recipe to ensure the Tennessee Vols would play to see another game. I'm Paige Dower, and this is the Field Pass. Stamos, he got his 7th start of the season for Tennessee in their postseason match against Texas A&M. And for the pitcher, he doesn't have much postseason experience. Despite it, he had one of his best outings. He pitched 3.1 innings, got 3 strikeouts, so it's a new season high in innings pitched, and it's just 2 shy of his high in strikeouts. He had 5 against Vanderbilt in the regular season. And then in the top of the 4th is Tony Vitello, who moves to go get Causey in relief. And Causey, too, had a pretty dominant showing. He had 4 innings of work, and he got 7 strikeouts. After the game, the Texas A&M Aggies talked about how tough that duo is to prepare for.
A lot of movement on his ball, throws from a different angle. You don't see it every day, so it's hard to work on it any time you have. But guys got good stuff, and he overpowered us today.
Well, they've been doing it all year, right? I mean, Frank Anderson and Tony himself they're as good as there is in the country at what they do. So, you know, you try to prepare for both, but you can't really because they're so different. And with the level of pitching they have over there, it's awesome. It's not awesome when you're in the other dugout, but it's awesome to see how they just create a different look, right? And you know, we try to do that some as well, but that's a tough duo, man. You can't. It's really tough to prepare for.
And speaking of that limited postseason experience, Coach Tony Vitello says Stamos is never short of fire.
But he looked like a pro out there. And I think he was, if anything, a really good balance. He gets fired up. I mean, I know he's not waving his fist and all that stuff, but he's a pretty intense guy, and I think that's important to manage in a setting like this. And he seemed to have a good balance of the proper intensity, but also having his breath under him and things like that. So where it stacks up, I'm not sure, but I think it was kind of what the doctor ordered after yesterday.
I think we're 2 completely different looks. Him being like an over-the-top lefty, me being a low slot righty. But other than that, I just think he goes out and he competes, and so it kind of calms me and makes me go out there and do what he did, basically. So yeah, it's really calming.
And regardless of the strikes that this pitching staff is able to throw game in and game out, it's actually their unselfishness and willingness that Vitello says is their strength.
Have been the most willing that I've ever been a part of. So this staff has been used differently and done things differently, but they're all very willing to do whatever you ask them to do, including hand you the ball. Stom wanted to talk to me about the movie Tombstone out there. When I took the ball from his hand, and little does he know, I think you guys know there's some history with that movie in us. And then same thing, Causey, as soon as he saw me out there, I've seen that look before. He wanted no part of coming out of the game, but by the time I get to that point, you know, he's talking to his teammates about what they got to do, and he hands the ball off to Kirby. And so I would describe willing and unselfish out of those 2 groups, and it's nice they're in the same dugout together.
The pitching staff was pretty locked down against the Aggies, but the Vol offense had some pop to it as well, plating 7 runs against the Aggies to go on to win 7-4. But 4 of those runs was thanks to Kavares Tears. He had an RBI double and then a 3-run home run to give Tennessee 4 of its 7 runs on Thursday. Those 4 runs he batted in sets a new career high, and it came off of 3 separate hits, which ties his career high for the 7th time. And if you recall last week when I mentioned Kavares Tears against that South Carolina series, and Tony Vitello kind of setting a challenge to his players, and Tears being one of the guys that were able to arise to the occasion. If you don't, this is a good time to hit that subscribe button. That trend has continued here in Hoover during the SEC tournament, kind of really powering this offense. But it's not so much that the challenge is now making him a more productive guy at the plate, but it's allowed him to maybe have a more renewed and refreshed mindset.
A lot of it is just faith in each other. If somebody doesn't get it done, then you have 100% faith in the guy behind you that he's going to get it done. So just believing in each other, I think, has played the biggest role.
And if you ask Tony, he says Tears doesn't need any more fire about him. He's actually quite a furnace for this team. But after honing his skills, he's actually turned into quite an asset for this team.
I think anything that relates to doubt, failure, adversity, that's when he takes his passion and directs it. I mean, he's had some blow-ups in the dugout, whether it be, and he's done a good job of not, being a distraction with it, but it could be a home run or a hit. It could be something that good happened or something bad. but he's got a furnace in there. He's got a lot of fire to him. And so when there's some challenges like he had on our campus, is you come in, you're just kind of a bopper, a guy that's got some power and not that well-rounded of a player or athlete, and you got to sit behind a lot of talented guys. That fire drove him in the long term too, or over many days, not just moments. But yeah, he's got a lot of passion to him.
And maybe a low light to this win over Texas A&M was Tennessee's ability to base run. They had the bases loaded 3 separate times, and it was actually when Kavares Tears was at the plate, Billy Amick got caught stealing third, and his 1 RBI double could have been a 2 RBI double in that moment. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, I asked Vitello if it's concerning overall that you weren't truly able to capitalize on these 3 separate occasions of bases loaded. And he says, no, every game you have, there's going to be mistakes. You just hope that your offense and defense is able to bring you out of those moments and then create more opportunities for you later in the game.
No, I think if anything on the base running deal, we had the first and third with Ensley. They bring in their tough submarine guy. And just a hesitation cost us, which can happen this time of year. Kids think about consequences because if you get forward and you start envisioning, what am I going to say at this press conference? And it's, if we lose, we're out of the tournament. You can start thinking about consequences. And I'm not saying it happened there, but you got to just keep playing ball. And normally we don't hesitate on that particular situation. But I think we just kind of had a misplay on the occasion that you talked about. And again, I think I opened with this one or the last interview. We certainly made mistakes today, but they're as strong as they are. We were talking about as good athletes as they are. They're also about 21, 22 years old, and we're going to make mistakes tomorrow too. It's about just making sure you keep playing ball throughout 9 innings, and you want as few as possible. But again, you can overcome them, especially if you got the talent that's in our league.
Drew Beam will get the start on Friday. Aaron Combs is also expected to be involved in Friday's game at some point as well. And I've also noticed quite a surge in subscriptions and follows from you guys, and I really do truly appreciate everyone following along. And if you're new, I hope you subscribe as well. We've got some really good content coming over here. And after the show, hopefully you guys will go to the Rewind with Jimmy Himes and watch his interview with Sterling Hinton, talking about how he got his football career started back in his high school days, where maybe he was going to lean more towards his bowling career. He was actually quite a good bowler in high school, so maybe check that out. Until then, I'll be back on Sunday, hopefully with more baseball. If not, we've got the Lady Vols in the Super Regionals.